Welcome to Prana Fictitious Stories. Before we begin today's story, we would like to make a small request. Please subscribe to our new channel and support us. Your support will inspire us to bring even more original and unique stories. So, without further delay, let's start today's story. He was lying in her room in the light of the morning sun, making a light shadow and darkness. The sweet aroma of coffee was in the air. He slowly opened her eyes, a little confused. He got up and sat on the bed, holding his scattered hair in her hands and frowning lazily. But he was feeling something different. There was a strange tension in the air, as if there was some unknown energy at night. He looked around the room, but he didn't see any current. Arv tries to remove that uneasy feeling by blinking his eyes. Last night, he was very tired, but he didn't even know what he was feeling in his sleep. But that feeling was still going on in his mind. It wasn't a normal feeling. It was something different, something he wasn't able to understand. His mind was feeling that light touch, or maybe a slight touch of his lips on his cheek. That thing that happened to him was so subtle, so flitting, that he thought maybe he was dreaming. Still, that memory was roaming in his mind like an incomplete dream. Shaking his head, ignoring that tension, Arv got up from his bed and removed that thought from his mind. He had to concentrate. It was his habit. He would either ignore any current-related feeling or suppress the emotions. But this was different. He wasn't able to understand what this was, and this strange uneasiness was growing inside him. Sitting near the curtain, Arv was slowly sipping his coffee, his fingers tapping on the side of the cup, lost in thoughts. He hadn't slept much last night either, but his state was different. He was trying to keep his emotions under control, trying to stop the rush of those feelings that were there last night. This shouldn't have happened, but that tension, that longing, that desire had grown so much that it was difficult to control it. Karan knew that he would have to tell Arv about his feelings soon, that he loves him, but he also knew that this was not the right time. He couldn't rush things. He couldn't reveal everything now. Not now. As long as there was so much confusion between the two of them, as long as Arv was unaware, Karan wasn't afraid of losing Arv. But he came out of his thoughts immediately due to the sound of approaching footsteps. Arv came into the living room. He was feeling a little sleepy, as if he hadn't fully woken up yet. Morning, Karan greeted him. His voice was calm, but there was something else about it. Something that was creating a slight tension in Arv's mind. There was an edge in his tone, something that Arv couldn't understand. Morning, Arv muttered. His eyes went to Karan for a moment, and then he went to the kitchen and got busy at the counter. Karan kept looking at him for a while. His eyes were a little narrowed. Arv's way of moving, not looking directly at him, there was something that was different. "Are you okay?" Karan asked. His voice was light and casual, but his heart was beating a little fast. He couldn't help it. Arv's way of behaving, distant, almost uncomfortable, was creating a flare of uncertainty in Karan's heart. Arv stopped for a moment, as if unsure of what to say. He looked at Karan from above his shoulder. Their eyes met for a moment, and in that fleeting moment, a storm of emotions passed between them, but it ended as soon as it came. "Yeah, I'm just a little tired," Arv replied. His voice was so uncertain, he didn't want to show it more. Karan knew he shouldn't push him. That's why he kept quiet, looking at Arv carefully. Every moment, every little movement of Arv was enough to make his heart beat faster. He wanted to go to Arv, but he stopped himself. But still, he leaned a little. There was a slight smirk on his lips. "Are you sure? You look different today," Karan added. His words were in a teasing and almost flirtatious tone. Arv's back stiffened, and he looked at Karan. There was a sparkle in his eyes. Anger, confusion, or maybe something else. "What do you mean?" he asked in a sharp voice. Karan raised his hand in a mock surrender, but his smirk didn't disappear. "Nothing," he said in a smooth tone. "I just thought you looked peaceful." Arv's brows furrowed, but he didn't say anything else. He turned around again, trying to ignore that strange fluttering feeling in his chest. The more he thought, the more those strange moments would come to mind between him and Karan, but he pushed them back, as he always did. "I should go," Karan added, trying to shift the mood, but his words seemed heavier than that. He didn't want to go, but he didn't when everything was so unresolved. Arv absent-mindedly nodded, still didn't look at him, but the thought of him, the distance between them increasing again, left a strange emptiness in his chest. Karan got up and came close to Arv. He extended his hand, lightly touched Arv's arm. His fingers stayed there for a while, just enough for Arv to feel the warmth of his touch. That moment was short, fleeting, but it was so short that there was a snap in Arv's body. He froze for a second. His heart missed a beat. But by the time he turned to look at Karan, the distance between them had already decreased. Karan had a softness in his eyes. A medium smile was visible on his lips. "I'm around," he said. His voice was light, almost intimate. Then he turned around, left Arv standing there, frozen. Arv stood there for a while, his thoughts wandered around. The warmth of Karan's touch was still in his mind. The uncertainty within him was increasing. The tension breaking point between them was increasing. What was happening between them? Why did it feel like something was changing? And most importantly, why did it feel like it was impossible to ignore it? For the whole day, everything seemed like a hazy dream to Arv. His thoughts were repeatedly experiencing that touch and that lingered feeling, as if it were true, which he felt while sleeping at night. On top of that, that small touch in the morning, which was normal and small to say, but it seemed difficult to forget the feel. It seemed as if there were some unheard words in the air, but whenever he wanted to put them into words, something or the other would stop him. He was not able to accept that whatever he was feeling, Karan's coming close to him, it was all because of his friendship or something else was changing. It was getting dark, and Arv had come home from office. He was sitting by the window with a coffee cup in his hand, looking towards the evening. He was not able to understand what he was waiting for, and then a knock at the door. Arv was lost in thought. He did not think anyone would come, because, due to the Karan meeting, he had to go out of the country and Raghav had gone to meet his family. Apart from this, he did not have many people in his life, so he was lost in thought. But he went to the door, and when he opened the door, Karan was standing in front of him. He asked in shock, "What are you doing here?" "We had met in the morning." He started feeling uncomfortable looking at Karan. He started avoiding Karan after a strange dream in the morning. Karan comes into the room, and his presence immediately filled the room, like the calm before a storm. His voice was smooth, but Arv was feeling the tension hidden in it. The unsaid words were passing between the two of them. Arv blinked, surprised by Karan's sudden arrival. "Karan? Me?" He stopped himself, unsure of what to say. He himself did not know what to say. But looking at Karan like this, the feeling in his eyes, as if he was understanding everything, he was feeling exposed. "Don't worry, I won't stay for long," Karan said. He came in and waited without any invitation. His eyes were on Arv, as if he was looking at him carefully. Arv was feeling a strange tickling, and something else, something deep, something he was not ready to understand. He gathered his courage and said while reducing the tension inside him, "What are you doing here, Karan?" Arv finally asked. His voice was softer than he had expected, and a mix of confusion. "I thought you had a lot of work. You were very busy, and you brought dinner here. What was the need for this? I'm not a kid." Karan turned to him. He was busy, and he needed it. He said slowly, "But I can't stop thinking about you, Nan. Ever since you left office, we haven't met much, and we have less to talk about. So, all these excuses make it possible to meet you." He became stiff. After listening to Karan, he was not able to understand what to say, how to react. His heart was beating fast, and this uncertainty was eating him from inside. He was about to say something when Karan came to him, but casually opened the fridge passing by him and started taking out a bottle of water. His body brushed against Arv. It was so close that Arv felt like someone stopped his breath. Karan's every move was slow, but it felt like it was done on purpose, as if he knew what he was doing. Arv could feel his heat. The smell of his perfume was in the air. Everything seemed more intense, more intimate. "Let's eat, or it will get cold," Karan said. His voice was soft, and his tone was strangely intimate, as if they were more than just friends. They were more than just friends, but they didn't know each other's feelings. Arv's breathing was getting faster due to tension. Karan, being so close to him, felt like his weight was heavier than him. The closer Karan got to him, the more Arv and he got tensed. Without waiting, Karan started unpacking his food. He placed it in front of Arv. "You know, Nan, I've always been a good cook." Karen was soft, as if he was trying to lessen the tension that had increased between them. But Arv felt that this wasn't just dinner. Karen didn't just bring dinner here. He came to test his patience. Yes,